Welcome back to Grow Your Impact, Income, and Influence from the Stage. If you are looking to hold a live event or do more public speaking that separates you from everybody else in the crowd, you're going to want to listen up to today's podcast. My guest today, I had the pleasure of emceeing his event. I got to see him coach people live on speaking, and he is one of the best in the business. He has several events scattered throughout the year. If you get a chance to go to one of his events and see him live and interact with him, he will change your speaking career and therefore your business. Jase, how are you doing this afternoon?
Steve, it's always awesome to hang out with you. Thanks for the nice intro.
Yeah, of course. I was blown away at your live event. So you did something at one of the live events I was at that I just want to give you props for. I think it's something anyone can learn from. One of the things that I like to do when somebody asks me a question, I tend to go right into a tactic. And you nicely quieted me down and you said, "Hey, I want to actually change this person's life." And you gave them something that really helped change their mindset around what they were doing so they could actually use the tactic. A tactic without a strong foundation is useless. And you saw right through what I was trying to do and helped the person where they needed it, which I think is something that so few people speaking from the stage do. Um, and that doesn't come from, reading a book. That comes from a lot of practice, a lot of time honored speaking on stage. So you started speaking on stage more than 15 years ago. Take us back and just give me a quick recap of how you got here.
Yeah, my life sucked. Is it okay to say sucked on your podcast? It's
Absolutely.
2001. I was a real estate agent and investor. I was doing okay. I was doing the quintessential okay. But looking back on it, if you ever had a time in your life when you look back, you're like, whoa, I was really in a precarious spot. Like I didn't realize. I'll put it this way. I had no really healthy habits. I didn't have any really great relationships. I was going out drinking, like partying with this group of quote unquote friends, 3, 4, 5 nights a week. I was paying my bills, felt like I was getting ahead, but I really wasn't. I was single at the time. I really wanted a relationship, and I never forget all of these dates. When oh yeah, I'll go out with you, and then they would stand me up, like just heartbroken all the time. And looking back on it, I was really spiraling down. And I went to this real estate boot camp, and this guy got on stage and talked about how to change your life and make more money in real estate, but it had nothing to do with real estate. It had to do with changing your subconscious beliefs, learning sales skills, taking massive action. And I had just been kind of introduced to personal growth before that. And I bought this. My friends had been at this guy's seminar. And it's like, I'm going to buy this thing. I'm going to go. And when I went to a seminar, it changed my life. And I fell in love with personal growth. And I went to work for that. Well, I went through a bunch of advanced trainings. And then simultaneously, I heard about this other company and I signed up for their stuff sight unseen. And in the summer of 2002, I went through two personal development companies training simultaneously plus other stuff. I went to every seminar I could go to. And so um I fell in love with personal growth. I started working for that first company. And so since 2002, I've been working and coaching in the personal growth industry. And it made a difference in my life. Like I fell in love with live events. And so everything I do, there's a grounding in the breakthrough. Like we've got to have an internal breakthrough before the external reorganizes itself. And so tactics are super important. And like you're so good at selling from stage two. And I really believe we have to have the heart breakthrough and tactics. And that's when people are set up for really big success.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I love live events as well. I think getting people into a room, getting them into a space where you can actually influence them, it's not, 30 or 60 minutes, is a couple days. You can really feel their energy, you can collaborate with them, you gain rapport, and you can actually influence them. And I know you share that as well. You've been doing events now for 20 years. What are some of the things? We're going to get into tactics, but from a high level, what are some of the things that you have seen events change in people that you've worked with?
That I've seen them, I got kind of lost.
No problem. The When you hold an event, what are some of the big changes that you've seen that you've been able to shift in people that have been an audience in your event?
Got it. Oh, over and over and over and over, a big thing people report back is confidence. They're way more confident in themselves. And then whether or not they reported confidence, but I think confidence leads to this, they take a lot more action. Like we just did an event. What are we in? Literally last month, we did an event, a breakthrough event, and we had people coming back and reporting how they're just getting on all these stages. They're just picking up the phone and making sales calls. They're making connection with hosts. And they're like, it's like nothing. It's just normal. And I think when we can help people scrub out the limiting beliefs and really fill them with like confidence and that they're enough and that they're good enough no matter what, and to not worry about stuff from their past, I believe our natural state is to take massive action. I believe our natural state is to be alive and happy and joyful. And what gets in the way of that is our protection mechanism. So it's less that we got to fill people with rocket fuel. It's more we got to pull the weights off them, take the chains off them. And if we do both, if we can take the chains off and fill them with rocket fuel, that's when they have super success. So, I mean, other things, we've had multiple people say they would have committed suicide if they hadn't been there. And they didn't come for like a personal growth thing. They came for in the context of like speaker training. We've had people make way more money. We've launched multiple six-figure companies, seven-figure companies. Um, it, it, man, there's a ton. It's a long line. I'll say those are the most recent ones, though. People have been reporting confidence and just taking massive action.
That's awesome. I mean, I think your analogy of like rocket fuel versus weights, if you think about it, I think so many people are trying to grow their business. They're mashing on the gas as hard as they can, but they've got this whole thing over here of like a hidden ghost foot that's on the brake. And it's like, well, if I become really successful in business, then all these bad things will happen, or I can't accept that in my brain, and it stops that from happening. You do some things. I know the event that you just had, the breakthrough event, you actually do some things where you put people in a stressful situation that has nothing to do with being on stage, but it shows them how they're reacting to things. Do you want to maybe talk through that a little bit?
Sure. A couple things jump out. We do if you ever heard of the red black or the XY game, we do that. If you don't know what that is, you guys don't Google it. You will ruin it for yourself. Save it. You only get to experience that game once. The other thing we do is, people are made of three parts. So there's the mental, the thoughts, there's the emotional, how they feel, and then the physical. Um, in Christian circles, you could talk about spirit, soul, body, all that, whatever. But those are the main things: people's body, their physicality, their thoughts, and their emotions. And there's an interplay. And if you trigger one, you trigger the other two. If people have a negative thought, they're going to feel negative in their body, and their emotions are going to go negative. If we move someone's body in a positive way, it will cause positive thoughts to happen and positive emotions happen. By the way, can I take a detour off of that to share a tip for events?
Yeah.
When you're crafting an event, we call it EBAR: emotions, beliefs, actions, results. So emotions, beliefs, actions. So that's the feelings I'm talking about, beliefs, their thinking, and their body. You've got to have all three aligned in order to create the results you want in the room. And so, if the result you want is a really powerful audience, if the result you want is a bunch of sales, then it's not enough to just reach their thoughts. You got to also reach their emotions. And then the thing too few people are even consider, you've got to reach their body. We've got to get people into an active, open state physically in the room so that they're more adept. And like people know, like to raise the hand and small yeses lead to big yeses and all that. But what I want to expand it is, how can you structure the room? How can you structure the seats? How can you structure the movement and the exercises you do throughout it? So you're training and conditioning them to be a yes, not just to say a yes, not just to feel a yes, but the movements of being a yes. So, did that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know this. I remember learning this. Gosh, I think it was from John Childers. I'm not 100%
Right.
sure, but it's like, how do you set up everything in a live room? This is why I love live events over virtual. Yes, virtual, you can get more people there. It's so much cheaper, blah, 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 all that stuff. But like live in the room events, you actually get to physically impact people. They're jumping around, they're moving. If you've been to a Tony Robbins event, like the reason that
Yeah.
he can keep you awake for 18 hours is because of the things that he does in the room. And you do the same thing. I mean, we've seen that at live events, but how does a yes feel, not just in your body, but how do you move when you're saying yes to something and getting them in that state. And anyone listening to this and you're like, well, it sounds like you're just moving them towards sales. 100%. And we're moving them towards being a better version of themselves. If you believe in what you're selling and you believe that it will change somebody's life, you have a duty to sell that to them, because just being in the room for 3 days, well, that might have a positive impact on their life. It's not going to drastically change their life. That's the difference.
Absolutely. And well, talking about the sales, if you train people to say yes and then sit still, that's what they'll do when you make your offer, right? And everything at a live preview event. So let me define preview just so we're all on the same page. Preview is like the free or the 97, or we're doing a $500 preview event. Everything in the preview event is designed to move people to buy the coaching program. Now, once they buy the coaching program, they come to what's called fulfillment events. And that's where you fulfill on the promises made when you sold them into the coaching program. So, um, if you're doing a preview or a front end event, you're charging multiple thousands of dollars. It might be inappropriate to really push an upsell because they've already paid so much to be in the room. But typically, the model is they get it cheaper on the front end, and that's part of the game. Now, having said all that, why is sales okay? Because if people don't buy, they're never going to sell. If we say how you buy is how you sell, it's impossible for a coach to never buy stuff. Well, this I believe it's impossible for a coach to never buy stuff and be adept at selling. And here's why. If a coach says, "Oh, I got to think about it," and then they go to make a sale, then they're going to expect that that person says, "I got to think about it." If the coach says, "Oh, I don't have enough money," they're going to expect the audience member says, "Oh, I don't have enough money." And so however the coach is or in the world of buying, they're going to it's kind of woo woo, but also when you unpack it, if we had longer, we can unpack how it works. The coach will act in ways, or the speaker will act in ways that subconsciously causes the audience to show up like them. So if the speaker is a slow buyer, they will expect the audience to be slow buyers, and they'll relate to the audience in such ways that cause them to be slow buyers. So for instance, they won't close, or they'll hear someone go, "I don't have the money." And if the speaker's someone who doesn't think they have the money, they'll be like, "Well, but me neither. I don't have the money either." So I kind of detoured us. You asked a different question I was answering when I took the side note about
No,
the
you are
body.
totally all right, Jace. We were talking about like what sets up an event to really move people, right? And you were going through at a live event, like getting them into a whole body yes. You then went down how we buy is how we sell, which is something that you teach at your events, which I think is really powerful. I think so many people are like, I want to show up on stage, I want to hold an event, I really want to change people's lives. And then you ask them to buy something, and they immediately, oh, I can't, I've got, and they immediately start to list off a whole big list of excuses. If you have a lot of excuses, you're going to project that onto people, and people will mirror that back to you.
Yes.
I think one of the same things in the same vein is if you don't fully believe in the thing that you are selling 100% to your core, it will show up subconsciously either in your sales calls or from stage. This is something that I talk to people. You can have the best offer in the world, but if you deliver it halfway, or if you don't fully believe in it, you're going to get one or two sales of people who don't fully believe in it because they're going to mirror it back to you.
Absolutely. And I think what gets in people's way too, we say they don't believe in their offer. It's really they don't believe in themselves. Some level they don't really truly believe in themselves, because a guy named Jason, so I used to do this event. So back when I started my personal growth company, I launched in 2004, and we'd sell a package as a $10,000 package, which back then was high ticket. And in it was a 5-day breakthrough event, an event on like time management and productivity, and then another event called the Unlimited Weekend. In the Unlimited Weekend, we'd rent a beach house, and they would get deep hypnosis one-on-one Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and then we'd finish up Sunday. So we'd have like one coach for every two attendees, and so they would get a lot of one-on-one, right? And why did I start talking about the Unlimited Weekend? We're talking about whether or not they believe in themselves. So I'll never forget this. Jason was one of my coaches, and we did some group breakthrough stuff Thursday night. Actually, they would do the hypnosis Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We did group stuff Thursday night. And Jason goes, all right, who already got their money's worth? And everybody's hand went up from maybe, except for maybe one or two. And Jason goes, I want to know what it will take to give you your money's worth tonight, right now. So you already got your money's worth, and the rest of the weekend is bonus. And what I took away from that was a couple things. One, if they got their money's worth, they're going to be like, whoa, this was amazing. And the next few days are just like extra. So they're going to be more likely to buy anything else we have. But the other thing I got was Jason was absolutely certain in himself that he could deliver it. And what he said to them is, what would it take? And he's asking them. And then he says, if you don't have an answer, then no one can make you happy. Right. And so he's putting them in a position to have to answer that question, which causes them to step up in their life. But taking it back to Jason, he was so certain that he could deliver that he was willing to say something like that. So let me map that over to other people making their offer. If you are 100% committed that you're going to do what it takes for your clients to win, and you are certain that you will play full out, you will find the way for them to win. You will find another person, or you will find a resource, or you will get the training, or you will do something. Your success as a coach is only hemmed in by how much you believe in yourself and how much you're willing to go for it as a coach, right? Now, I'm not saying you give everything away and you do 20 hours of that's not what I'm saying. I mean, we can have boundaries. What I'm saying though is your willingness and your commitment create something, and it calls that forth out of your audience. You can't give your audience something you ain't got, right? And so when you're playing, I guess it really goes back to playing full out. When you're playing full out, it teaches them to play full out. And when they play full out, their life changes.
I think that is 100% true. If you think of any great event that you've gone to, we could name Tony Robbins, or I could say like even like your event, people see you play full out. So they in return are like, well, I'm gonna play full out. But if you've ever gone to an event, and I've had to work with so many people to help them, where they're showing up and they're in their head and they're teaching at a level 10 and it's too heavy, and like that's not they're not playing full out. They're talking in a monotone voice. They're sitting in a desk chair. Like that's a lot different energy and a lot different conviction than, hey, I am here. We, one of the, I'm going to tell this story really briefly. One of the events that I was lucky enough to be involved with was Eileen Wilder's first live event. And she had 12 people in the room.
Hmm.
She tells this story as part of her origin story. And I'm very blessed to have been a part of it. She's like, she really wanted to have more people there. We talked right before her event, and I said, hey, you need to just show up. Eileen plays full out no matter what anyway. But I was like, you just need to show up and serve these 12 people. If you do, they will understand that. And really, because it's a smaller event, they will see more value in it. She closed 100% of the room and did like well over $100,000 in sales. Cash collected was over 100K because she showed up with so much conviction. And if you see
Wow.
Eileen now, the thing that everybody leaves her speeches with, she's beautiful, she's smart, she speaks well on stage. I don't really know what she taught me, but man, I really believe in myself. It's no secret to me that I mean, she does millions of dollars. I think last year she did somewhere between 4 and 6 million. And the main thing that if you ask anyone, what did I get from Eileen? It's I got belief in myself.
That's
And
beautiful.
that's really what live events do. I kind of want to shift a little bit, Jason. I want to go into tactics around live events. You've been at it for 20 years. You've run probably more than 50 different like events with outcomes. I know you have a lot of different like you've done so many different things with events. I'd like to talk about some of the tactics of events. What does it like? What are some of the things that you use to get people to play full out at your events?
Awesome. So, can I tell a quick tag on to what you just shared really
Sure.
fast? So, I had that personal growth company, and then when the recession hit, I went in a big depression for two reasons. One, my market was real estate investors, and we made a lot of money fast. 2000, when I launched my own company, I increased my income by 1,000%, and we rocked it through 2007. But then our real estate investors was our thing, and I started feeling that pinch, I think, before the rest of society did, and everything crashed. But the other reason I went into depression was, um, I did everything that they say will make you happy. I made a lot of money, bought a fancy car, traveled the world, made a difference, was on stage, had all these people saying how great it was. It was all empty, man. It was empty. And I really crashed. And I remember looking for people who would help me, and people like, oh, pay me 10,000 to help you. But like, who would help me? Who was really there for me? And I made a promise in my heart that my events, whether I had, when I got to where I could help people again, whether I had 440 or 400 people in the room, I would put on the same event. And just like Eileen did, I did a lot of events for 4 people, and we still brought our sound and our light and support, and we ran an amazing event. It was really interesting. We made more sales with 4 people in the room than 40 people in the room, more gross cash collected, because I think they could feel our heart. And that goes to today. You guys, it can be easy to get disappointed when you don't have a big room or your expectations. And you got to remember, everyone that's there said yes and showed up because they saw something in you that can give them access to a better life. And like, we have our own goals and stuff for our businesses, and yet what an honor and a privilege to, like the event that you did with us. We only had 35 people. All the stages we were on were super small, so the amount of people we could sell to hemmed in how many could show up. And yet I think we served massively. What do we have? 35 people. We did over 200,000 in sales, something like that.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
we
I
sell
mean,
out.
you closed extremely well. And the thing that also happens with smaller rooms, because some of those people were virtual, you can actually interact with them. We had the big monitors, and when
Yeah,
you interact with people, they're like they feel seen. What does every human want more than anything else in the world? To feel
yeah.
seen, heard for who they are, and to be helped. And if you show up, I mean, it's great to go to a big monster room, right? I've been in rooms of 10,000 people, the energy's great, but the chances of you getting like really served in that are a little different, right? So it I tell people this all the time. I would take most of the time, I would take a room over 35 to 50 people over 5,000 because I
Really?
know I can actually really hit those people.
Well, you're gonna have that in Boise. Guys, we couldn't have done it without Steve. I know this isn't meant to be an ad for Steve. Steve, we did 25% on a virtual event. That's unheard of. So back to your thing about tactics. A couple things we do tactically to get people to take action in the room. Uh, very, very, very intentionally. I call it forced interaction. People want to interact. People come to a live event to interact, to make new friends. Most entrepreneurs are lonely out there. Most entrepreneurs are doing it by themselves. And we have an unbelievably great community. And a few things that get the interaction and the movement going in the room have translated to the community. So, one is forced interaction. Very early in the event, I'll have people write down what are their top 3 goals, what are their top 3 challenges, and then I'll take shares from the audience. And then we say, all right, get up now and go share with 5 people your top 3 goals. And I show, hey, it's not how are you, where are you from, blah, blah, blah. It's here's my goal, here's my goal, here's my goal. High five, go to the next. So there's a structure and there's a kind of a forced to it. And I like this forced interaction because I am naturally ambivert, I think. I can be very shy, very introverted. But when I'm forced to say hi, or when it's stage time, I turn it on. Like people would never guess I'm introverted, but very easy for me to go to an event and not talk to anybody. But if I'm forced to get up and say, Steve, what are your goals? Here's my goals. Awesome. High five. Go to the next. They call icebreakers. Icebreakers suck. Usually they're stupid. But this way, now we've connected. We've made a physical connection or a physical connection or a handshake physical connection. The endorphins start flowing and there's a structure to it. And then what the salespeople do and the coaches do, they look for who sits on their ass and doesn't participate, because that person, metaphorically and literally, what they do in the room, they're doing outside of the room. So that person that's not getting out of their seat interacting is doing that in their marketing, and they wonder why their sales suck. And even if their sales are good, they could be better. And if like, oh, well, I'm too good for this crowd, then they're giving off that vibe out there. And so when they get to talk to 4 or 5 people, now they know 4 or 5. So then they sit, and then we have them share their challenges. And then I like to do stupid jokes throughout, because the more we can get people to laugh, the more we touch their heart. People are never more open to coaching and sales than when they're laughing. And the more you can get them to laugh, the better. So when we have them do their challenges at the end of their like fifth person they share challenges with, I'll say, you know, I'll have them high five the other people and go, "Hey, you're better than that. Hey, you're good. You can beat that challenge. Hey, you're stronger than that challenge." But then the last person they high five, I'll have them say something like, "Say, ooh, I'm glad that's not mine." And then everybody starts laughing because they didn't expect that. And so now they're laughing. They've got the rapport, they got the bond, and now they've had connections, 10 different connections. So now they know, depending how big the room is, a large portion of the room. So that's one forced interaction. Plus, the more they hear other people's goals, and everybody has the same goals, right? No matter what it sounds like on the surface, the subconscious 10 to 15 subconscious drivers are the same. Everybody has the same challenges, all the same BS. I wish I had time to tell a story about if we have time later, I'll tell a story about that. So when they hear that, it makes them go, whoa, I'm not alone. And then it also makes them go, whoa, I'm not so special. So many people think they're special, that their problem is, no, you're not special. You have the same bullshit challenge everybody else does. Let's just get to work and we can beat it. It's in your subconscious programming, or it's in some tactics you're missing. It's in some sales skills. So that's one. Second thing we do, we create agreements. And we create agreements like play full out. And I say, okay. And we define it. You guys, you cannot hold someone to a standard unless they have agreed to the standard. This is what too many people do wrong in their seminar rooms. Am I talking too long, or is this all right?
No, you're great.
So
Keep
we'll say,
going.
okay, play full out means you raise your hand when I ask for volunteers. They say, okay, great. I said, let's all test to make sure we can raise our hands. Okay, everybody can raise their hands. All right, what do you do when you have something to share and ask for volunteers? Everybody says, raise their hands. What do you do when I say raise your hand and you don't have something to share? And they like look around. You play full out, you raise your hand. So you raise your hand no matter what. You say yes and take an action no matter what. And people at first are like, huh? But we have a guy, Shiraz. Shiraz is one of our clients. Shiraz, every time I ask for someone to share, he raises his hand. And I cannot tell you how many times on a coaching call or something else, Shiraz will go, I didn't have anything to share, but you said to raise your hand. So I raised my hand. He's a yes, right? And then he'll come up with something to share. Nobody in our community has gotten on more stages than Shiraz. No one has percentage wise increased, well, actually, percentage and gross revenue increased their money. Shiraz. Nobody has set up more JVs. Nobody has more speakers asking him to come speak on their stage than Shiraz. And I think it all comes from he learned to say yes and put his hand up. Life is a yes game. So we create that agreement of playing full out so that when they're not playing full out, we can call it out. And then, more important than that, we can do work to discover what was underneath it that was stopping them from playing full out, because that's what's stopping them outside of that room from making money. And then the final thing, not the final, but a third piece we do is we have standards for our community. If you're going to play with us and be in our community, we have standards like we lead with love, we have fun, we say yes, and we take a step. And this one may or may not make sense in this short of amount of time, but we believe that conditioning equals results. In other words, everything that's ever happened to you from the moment of inception till now gives you what you're producing in life. And if you want to help people produce new results, you can't just give them you can't just give them the logic. You've got to bring the three parts into it. You've got to give them the new logic and thoughts, the new actions to take, and then a heart breakthrough. And if you want to transform the world, what you got to do is recondition people. So we do the work to help them recondition so they can be a yes. So the forced interaction, the agreements, and the standards creates a structure to play in. And so we do that from the jump, from the very beginning of when they meet us at the preview event, so that when they join our community, we recap all those stuff and have them re-agree to it. We have an unbelievably supportive and amazing, I'm not sure how much you've gotten to interact with them yet. Now, our community is wonderful, and it's one of the top things people say that they love about our coaching programs, because it's a safe place. You get to practice, you get to play full out. No one's going to make fun. Oh, one of our other standards, there's no throwaway comments and there's no throwaway people. So we're really diligent with the words we speak to people, and we make a safe place to train. Too many coaching programs are like, we're going to kick your ass into shape. I don't know a single high achiever who really needs his ass kicked more. No one is harder on me than me. I might need someone to give me a wake up call, but usually I need someone to love my ass into shape and to hug me when I'm scared and say, come on, Jase, you got this. You got this. You got this. You got this. That was a long.
That's, I think that is, I mean, that's really very true. I think a little bit of accountability goes a long way. We don't really need somebody with a big stick chasing us around. There's a lot in what you said that I love. Community is always huge. Getting people curated in the right way and keeping them from the moment they meet you all the way through making agreements. There's one piece that I want to talk about that I think the speakers listening can really benefit from. One of the things I hear all the time is, Steve, put me on stage. Steve, help me with my event. I can teach better than anybody else. And one of the things you can teach all day, but if people don't accept it, they're not going to implement it. One of the things that you do really well is you include humor.
Yes.
And it is something that I think every speaker could benefit from. If people were 100% more funny and taught 100% less, the world would be a better place because people will take the one takeaway from an hour talk if they feel good. Teaching does not make people feel good. So give me some tips on humor because this is something actually I was really impressed with at your event. You made people laugh more than I think any speaker I've worked with probably in the last 2 or 3 years.
Thank you. Because I'm funny. I don't even know why that was funny. So a couple let's tee up why it works, and then I'll give some tactics on what people could do. So one, the emotional state people are in when they learn something is the emotional state they go to when they use it. So when I started Life Tigers, my personal growth company in 2004, I'd watch these real estate entrepreneurs. They were paying $3,000 and $5,000 for these boot camps, and they wouldn't use anything. And I go to the boot camp, the guys are like this. And it was boring. It was all like logic, 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 right? Well, the emotional state they're in is this. So when they leave and they go to use it, subconsciously they go back to this. So you guys, if you're we need to find a better name, Steve. Being a speaker works for your 1 hour presentation. For leading a 3-day event, it doesn't. I think you need a leader is what you need to be, an event leader. And so whatever state your audience is where they're going to go to. So, do you want people, or do you want them laughing or fun or smiling or high energy or confident? So, you have to do emotional state management throughout your event while you're teaching. We do little high fives all the time. Some people mock that. I love it because it's a connection. There's an up, there's an endorphin release. Boom. Okay, next part. Um, when people are emotional, proteins get released out of a certain gland in the brain, and those proteins lay down the wiring called learning. So if there's no emotion, there's no learning. The more emotion, the more learning. On a negative side, that's why some of the most significant, painful events in your life stick with you the longest because the most emotion was released, the most protein was released, and the most brain wiring was released. And for most human beings, that happened from a down, painful state. So we got to break those, by the way. So if you can consistently release positive up emotions, then you get the proteins and you get more wiring in the room. So that's why I learned it was so critical. And the other reason I learned it was critical, I watched my mentor speak. I was like a roadie. I'd carried his bags. I did whatever. We're at this event, and this dude is 2003 at this point. This other dude in the same room's teaching brain science. And I was like, this guy's stuff's amazing. But he was like, literally, he had a book and he's like, and now I will share with you how I can't even tell you what this guy was, but I remember thinking, because I'm watching the crowd and the crowd's bored as crap. And I'm like, this is a crime. And the guy sold three people went to back then. It was, you would actually go to the back table, right? Three people went to the back table. His thing was $1,000. I'm like, this is a crime. He has unbelievably great stuff. Then my mentor gets on stage and my mentor's like, telling stories and super animated. And he's like kicking his heels up to kick his own butt. And he's getting the audience involved. And I'm watching the audience and they're laughing till they're crying. And then he'll bring them down and he'll tell this heart wrenching story. And they're like, and like he takes them on this journey. And when he finishes, not only is he get a standing ovation, people are running to the back. And he did $375,000 in sales. And I was like, holy crap, if I want to stick around, I better be funny. So I learned how to be funny. Being funny is the holy grail of speaking. Well, let me rewind. Being funny on purpose is the holy grail of speaking because some of our friends are funny, but not on purpose or unintentionally funny. So, uh, tactically, how can you get funny? Take, take, I highly, highly, highly recommend everyone take improv classes. When you speak, there's a triangle. The triangle is the interaction of the audience, your material, and you. And the more interaction you get between the audience, material, and you, the better the presentation. The less the interaction, the less sales, the less everything. So improv makes you a great listener, makes you play with whatever happens in the audience. And then start to watch Netflix comedian wherever watch comedians and great ones are on a thing called dry bar comedy. They're all clean And so you can see how funny clean can be. What I did when I first started, I ordered all of these joke books off of eBay, and from the 50s to the current, I started seeing what I could redo. And then I like Victor Borgia cracks me up, and he's super clean. I watched his stuff. There's a really tall comedian. She just speaker. She's not even a comedian. I said comedian is a misnomer. She was so funny though. I think of her as a comedian. She just passed away recently, but she would call her husband left brain because he was so analytical. That was her name for him. And I would watch her stuff, and it will inspire you to write comedy, and then get some books on actually writing comedy. The first seminar I ever created was called The Funny Farm for Speakers, which I still think is the best name I've ever come up with. The Funny Farm. Like, what a great name, right? And most speakers need to go to a funny farm. But I created it because the best way to learn something is to teach it. And I was like, I got to be funny if I'm going to stick around. So from the jump, I wrote this because it forced me to learn and study all this stuff about how to be funny. And so, talking about being funny, one is just being authentic. Improv will teach you this. Don't try to be funny, be authentic, and authenticity brings up humanity, and humanity is funny. The second thing is, and we say this when we would do the funny farm, and we have an event coming up in June, and we're gonna do some stuff on comedy. And we say this because people expect writing comedy, they're just gonna laugh the whole time. But one of the things we say is creating your humor is no laughing matter. It's work, which I think is funny, but it's work. And if you watch, boy, I'm giving you a long answer, but I love this question. Jerry Seinfeld has this amazing movie called Comedian. If you can find it, watch it. He throws away his old act. It's after he finishes his show, Seinfeld, and you see Seinfeld building his act a minute at a time. And he'll write something down on a piece of paper, and then he'll go do a minute, and some of it will kill and some of it won't. And so you'll see him be like, well, that's not going to be in the next one. And then you'll see him go to another club and do 2 minutes and then 3 minutes, and he builds it a minute at a time. And that's how we have to build our presentation. We build these humor moments, a humor, and it's not being funny, it's not jokes. You can repurpose jokes, but it's being humorous. And so you build it, and you got to put the work into it. There's anyone can be funny because it's formulas. And so if you could do math at all, you can add 1 + 2 = 3. You can do it. In comedy, 1 + 1 is anything but two. It's another way of putting it is comedy is leading people down the brick path of the flower garden and then turning on the sprinklers. So comedy is the unexpected. And if you just put some thought and work into it, you'll do it, and then write stuff down. And then what happens is when you start speaking, keep your ears open for what happens in the audience. So I'll finish with this one story. I have this picture of me from 2001, from when I started my personal growth journey. And I look horrible. Uh, Full disclosure, I don't know if I've ever shared this before. I'm going to share it with your audience, Steve. I knew I was going to change my life, so I went to Goodwill and bought a horrible outfit. And I took a picture of that outfit so I could have a really horrible before picture. So I show this picture of me, and we were at my mentor's house. And this guy's a multi-millionaire, and he had this work van where we take all the electronics and stuff for the events. He would do all his own AV. And so I showed this picture for 10 years, and I'd be like, how much confidence do you think that guy had? How many dates was he going on? How much money was he making? Because at that time, it wasn't much. I just knew a change was coming. And so I'd shown that picture for like 10 years. And in like 2013, 2014, I go, how many dates do you think that guy went on? And there's this white van in the background with no windows. And this dude in the audience goes, with the killer van in the background, not many. And everybody starts laughing. And I'm like, oh, that was funny. So I pretended I was offended, and I was like, that's not my van. And then the audience laughs even harder, right? But when I got off stage, I like Evernote. I pulled out my phone and I was like, with the killer van in the background, not many. So now when I do that presentation, I still show that picture, and I say, how many dates do you think that guy went on? And then I'll say, I showed this picture once and a guy in the audience yelled, and I tell everybody what happened, and they laugh just the same. So humor will happen. People will say something, or you'll say something, and it'll just be funny. Put it in the next time. I hope that was a valuable answer. And then the biggest thing is events. Things just every event is its own animal. Every event, the audience. I want to share a tip on an audience. And I think a lot of people know this. You're not talking to a group, you're having, if there's 50 people in the room, 100 I mean 50 simultaneous conversations, or 100 people, 100 simultaneous conversations. But here's what most people don't get. You've got to speak to the individual, but what happens in a room is the audience, through what happens with, I believe it's the mirror neurons in the brain, and what happens through the biology in the room and chemicals in the room and human dynamics. Not only are they 50 individuals, they morph into one entity with 50 sets of eyes and ears. So what happens is it's like one emotional heart gets shared in the room. So if you create a beautiful moment over here with Fred, the entire room gets it. If you get Mary to laugh, the entire room gets it. On the other hand, if you have someone over here who's really difficult and you don't deal with it, that will go through one bad apple spoils the bunch. They begin to share a heartbeat. And so we've got to be really diligent in making these beautiful moments with each person in the room. And if there's something negative in the room, being able to carve that person out, or carve that emotion or that thought out, and restore the room to a great place.
That's a, we took a big detour from humor. We're going to come back to humor, but I want to actually share something that I think is really powerful in what you just said. If there is somebody in the room that is having a bad experience, or maybe they're in a place that they can't accept what you're saying. There was a event that I was emceeing, and there was a younger girl. She was like 24, 25, and she just the people in the room could tell that she was having a hard time accepting it because she didn't have a big enough vision for herself.
Yeah.
She raised her hand for a hot seat. I went over, and the person from stage was giving her tactical advice, and the girl just wasn't accepting it. And I could tell we had an option right then. We could either let her sit down, and everyone in the room would be like, oh, or we could deal with it. So I made the call. I later talked to the people who hosted the event. So I made the call, and I just said, "Hey, are you open to a little bit of feedback?" And she said, "Well, yeah, I'm here to learn. I'm here to grow." And I said, "Okay, the woman on stage, do you want the business that she has?" And she was like, "Yeah." The girl on stage, I think that lady was doing like 2.5 a year as a salon owner. And I said, okay, she just gave you a bunch of advice. And instead of listening, being curious, you immediately
Mhm.
discounted it, said, that's not for me, da 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 da. And the girl, like, you could tell she's just frustrated. And she looks at me, and I said, so what's going on? Why can't you accept it? And she said, because you're a man and you're giving me advice. And I said, I'm not. I'm not the one giving you advice. A woman is giving you the advice. And so she started like going through all the reasons, but then a really beautiful thing happened. A lady sitting a couple tables over, because we were at rounds, came over and just gave her a hug.
Mm.
And like the girl, like you could tell the girl was like frustrated. She didn't know what to do. So she got up because she couldn't accept, like, people were like, we're here for you. We're here to help you. And she couldn't accept it. She got up and left.
Mm.
She came back the next day completely different. And she was like, I went home, and she was like, first off, like, I just wanted to get drunk. I wanted to get high. And like I wanted to leave all of, like, I did not want to deal with it. But when I sat down and really thought about it, I realized like I'm here for something different. And but by doing that, it involved the whole room. And the whole room came together, and the girl ended up actually buying the product. And then she went on to use it because she was like, this community is here to support me, when it would have been so easy to just let it shut down. So anyone listening to this that's holding events, if you have somebody that's difficult in the room, deal with them. Like, that's why they're there. And if they have a breakthrough, the whole room will have the breakthrough, and it will bring the group closer together, which is really why they're in the room.
Yeah, if you don't like the action, the story will break your heart. So absolutely. And and that triggers me, Steve, we were talking, before this, about what makes our events different. And no matter what we do, I don't care if we're doing sales training, speaker training, anything. No matter what kind of training we do, we're going to have like intentional segments all about breakthrough. And the undercurrent of everything we do is about shifting the heart. If you believe in the Bible at all, in Proverbs, it says, above all else, guard your heart, for your heart is the wellspring of life. Another translation says, above all else, guard your heart, for out of your heart are the issues of life. You guys, it's people's heart. And can I share something that I see that's coming? So, you guys, I'm glad you're listening to this podcast because people that don't get what I'm about to say are going to be left behind. Have you ever had like you ever had something like it's in your space and you feel this thing and it's right here and then suddenly it clunks and you're like, oh, oh. So for years I've been telling people when you structure your coaching programs, you want to have it in three parts, and roughly the three parts are beliefs, actions, and then I'm like, it's a good idea to do a breakthrough island. It's good, and I kept saying good idea. And then I was listening to that book, Stealing Fire, and he made it just land for me. So here's what it is. We were in the information economy, and that's where most coaches still are. How to do something. We moved from the information economy to the experiential economy. And so coaches started adding bands to their events or cool experiences or taking people on stuff during masterminds and creating a nice experience. But we've left that. And if you're a coach who's only doing information experiences, you're going to be left behind because what we've moved into now is the transformation economy. And in the transformation economy, the client is the product. And so what's going to happen? I've seen a few waves in my 20 plus years, and this is one of them that's coming. The market is now savvy enough to know that who they are isn't enough for where they want to be. Not that they're not enough, but they need to become something new. They need to become someone greater. They need to have an internal shift. It's like if someone wants to make money, they know, oh, it's not just I have to learn these things. I got to reprogram my relationship to money. I have to become a millionaire internally. I have to become someone new. And so when people are going to be shopping for coaches, they're going to start looking for who can help me become the person I need to be. In other words, people are going to start shopping no matter what kind of coaching it is for who can help them do the transformational work to become it. And so in every one of our events, we do transformational work. And I want to encourage all of my people and everyone listening, guys, you either need to offer it yourself or bring someone in who offers it. And as a backup for this, what happened right around the same time I read this book, one of my good friends leads sales teams for events. And she told me that she was seeing the same crowd 6, 7 events in a row. And I'm like, ugh, is anyone making sales? And she said, yeah, the coaches who have the most personal growth training and who can deliver the most personal growth for their audience are making the most sales. And then a phrase you probably heard, they come for the money, they stay for the head game. If you want people to stay with you and to buy more, so I'll give you an example on this. Last year in April, people had paid 20,000 to be in our coaching program. They came to our 5-day breakthrough event, and with 20 people in the room, we did $410,000 in sales. And that's 20 people that had already paid 20 grand to be in there. This year we had a smaller crowd. We had 16, and we had a couple of like 15-year-olds in there. Well, with 16 people, we did $200,000 in sales. That's people that already paid 20,000 to be there. When you help them break through and transform, they're going to stick with you forever and they're going to pay more because that's the most important thing to people.
Absolutely. If you're listening to this and you want to learn a little bit more about Jase, Jase has a lot of events going on, but he also has a program called Be a Better Speaker. Tell me a little bit about this is beabetterspeaker.com. It is
Yes.
free for anyone who is listening. Tell us a little bit about what people are going to find there.
Yeah, it's the Speak, Sell, and Scale course. It's an email course. So you sign up. We're going to send you 4 weeks every day. We're going to send you an email about discovering your unique voice and how to craft a message that captivates, mastering the art of storytelling, and how to be really authentic on stage, and then how to improve your visibility and revenue with high impact speaking opportunities. So you're going to get an email from us every day training you on this. So you want to go to beabetterspeaker.com and you could sign up and we'll start emailing you every day.
Awesome. Jace, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and sharing. I love being at your events. I love supporting you in the events, and it's really cool to hear some of the behind the scenes. Thanks for being a great guest.
Oh, I love it. Hey guys, those of you who are out there doing the stuff, the world needs you, you guys. There's someone out there praying for an answer, and you were meant to be that answer. Go make a difference and make a lot of money. We love you guys. Thank you, Steve.
Awesome. On that note, guys, check out the links down below, and we will see you next time here on Grow Your Impact, Income, and Influence.